The Predator is one of the most iconic movie creatures of all time. With its sleek face, mask, unique weapons, and horrifying mandibles, this monster stalked its way into our collective nightmares and stayed there for generations. So today, on Scream to Screen, we're going to examine a key turning point in the lengthy career of this well-respected cinematic icon, namely when he had a chance to reposition himself as a terrifying creature, but didn't. Today, we're looking at what went wrong with the Predators. But before we do that, be sure to subscribe to Graveyard Shift and let us know in the comments which true-life horror story you'd like for us to cover next. The 1987 film Predator was received as a near-instant classic, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by John McTiernan, and written by Jim and John Thomas. The tale told of an intergalactic hunter who, during the hottest months of the year, came to Earth to hunt humans as sport. It clearly struck a chord with audiences, garnering $98.3 million at the box office, off a budget of just $15 million. Almost immediately, Fox decided to fast-track a sequel, but without Schwarzenegger, who did not want to repeat himself by returning to the role of Dutch, the film underperformed. Predator 2 instead nabbed Danny Glover as its leading man, and Nightmare on Elm Street 5's Stephen Hopkins as its director. Screenwriters Jim and John Thompson returned as well. This time, the jungle setting would be left behind, and the hunting grounds would be a near-future version of Los Angeles. The second installment in a would-be franchise didn't quite succeed as everyone planned, though. The film only generated $57 million at the box office, a miserable defeat compared to the strides its predecessor had made. Fox executives wanted Predator to be a fully-fledged blockbuster genre franchise, with global recognition to rival Alien. But that didn't seem to be in the cards for our cold-blooded hunters from a galaxy far away. They were quickly paired up with the Xenomorphs instead for two less-than-stellar Alien vs. Predator films. But before that came to fruition, Fox wasn't about to give up on the Predators flying solo. In the mid-90s, they hatched a plan to try and bring Arnold back into the fold to take up his iconic role as Alan Dutch Schaefer one more time, hopefully correcting the course of the franchise in the process. Needless to say, that didn't happen. But let's examine what a successful creative effort could have looked like. While prepping Desperado, a young Robert Rodriguez took on various screenwriting assignments to try and keep himself afloat. One of those assignments was writing a potential third entry into the Predator franchise, dubbed Predators. The film would have seen an aging Arnold Schwarzenegger returning to the role of Dutch, now a broken and beaten man who is yet again forced to enter combat against his perennial extraterrestrial nemesis, the Predator. This film would have introduced a much larger canvas to play on than the first. The story was planned to look, feel, and play out like a grand gladiatorial epic, where Schwarzenegger and multiple other human soldiers would be taken to an alien planet where they are forced to battle predators in a tournament for their survival. The idea at the heart of Rodriguez's script is that, on this planet, immature predators enter manhood by engaging in a rite of passage where they compete against one another in arenas filled with potential prey. Taking place many years after the original two Predator films, the opening of the movie would have seen Schwarzenegger being brought to a prison on an alien world, only to find that this world is infested with predators using it as a battleground for coming-of-age rituals. From here, the soldiers who were originally escorting him to this prison would have been forced to team up with Schaefer in an attempt to defeat these hostile aliens. This would have eventually devolved into a series of gladiatorial games and ritualistic combat exercises, all of which would have been exceedingly deadly. The climax of this film would have seen Arnold and a formerly crucified predator teaming up together in order to take on legions of other predators, led by a black predator. Ultimately, the Predator and Arnold would have escaped successfully. Finally, upon charting a course back to Earth, Schwarzenegger would have grimly remarked that a full-scale invasion of his home world by the Predators was an inevitability at this point. The Fox executives in charge of shepherding the Predator franchise initially found this idea intriguing and hired Rodriguez to pen the script. But upon seeing the finished product, they felt it was too large-scale and would have proven difficult to get off the ground, especially because Arnold Schwarzenegger did not want to return. From here, the franchise languished in development limbo for close to a decade. It wasn't until 2010 that Predators finally got its release. It was the supposed return to form for the Predator cinematic universe, which had not had a solo film for close to 20 years. Fox finally decided to stop attempting to make the Alien vs. Predator films work and revisit Rodriguez's idea. Again, it was felt that the script from 1996 was too large in scale and that it needed to be minimized in order to be affordable. Directed by Nimrod Atal and starring a bevy of A-listers and underappreciated character actors, Predators was intended to return the franchise to the glory it had been chasing since 1987. Unfortunately, the public did not receive it that way, and even fans did not respect it in the same way that they did previous entries. Despite a charismatic and dynamic cast including Lawrence Fishburne, Danny Trejo, Adrien Brody, Alice Braga, Walter Goggins, and Mahershala Ali, the film left many audience members cold. It opens with Adrien Brody's character Royce falling through the air and landing in a jungle. He quickly discovers that he's been brought there along with a Russian sniper, a cartel enforcer, a death row inmate, and a few other dangerous humans. These characters are then hunted by the Predators one by one, until Royce and a crucified Predator are forced to team up and defeat a larger black berserker Predator. While this brief summary may paint the picture that Rodriguez's film and what was eventually released were two very similar movies, the truth is that Predators was substantially rewritten prior to filming by screenwriters Michael Finch and Alex Litvak. They followed the studio's advice, decreasing the scale and producing a film that was intrinsically more filmable than Rodriguez's 1996 draft. One of the main ideas that this film introduces in the Predator canon is the idea that there are multiple factions of Predators engaging in a race war. The film's Berserker Predator was intended to be the big bad of the film, and also a fan favorite. It is obvious that this character was designed to counteract all of the criticisms that fans lobbed at the Alien vs. Predator film series. He's tall, muscular, and fearsome looking, unlike the AVP version of the Predator characters, which have more squat bodybuilder-esque proportions. Ultimately, there were multiple things that went wrong with Predators. First and foremost being that Adrien Brody's Royce never fully feels like the action hero the film demands. He was cast only months prior to shooting, and was unable to gain the requisite body mass to portray an assassin for hire. The film also neglects character development for tense action sequences. This normally would be something a Predator fan could overlook, but the fact that not just him, but so many other characters are just wooden stereotypes really hampers the film. In the original Predator film, we follow a team of GIs behind enemy lines in Guatemala, attempting an extraction plan. We're introduced to them by seeing them dispatch numerous terrorists. Yes, it's a cheesy action movie version of a military incursion, likely not accurate to real life at all. But it successfully sets up the characters by showing who they are and what skills they have. Then, over the course of the film, the Predator encounters them one by one and defeats them, making the creature more and more fearsome with each and every death. We're never truly introduced to Royce's team of characters. We just get the series of fight sequences based purely around archetypes and not personalities. Predator versus a Yakuza enforcer, Predator versus a sniper, and so on. The structure makes it virtually impossible to care about any of the characters when they die. Additionally, this movie introduces the idea that the Predators use hunting dogs to find their prey. This isn't necessarily a horrible idea, but the issue is that so much of the Predators' hunting revolves around honor killing that a hunting dog structurally flies in the face of that. They should be making a point to take life with their own hands, using their own skills. Another new piece of lore this film introduces to the Predator universe is the alien referred to in the script as the River Ghost. The alien is found by Royce and his team members in a capsule, suggesting that the members of this alien race were also hunted by the Predators for sport. The film quickly abandons this idea though. This could have been a very compelling narrative thread used to broaden the universe, potentially even leading to one of these aliens joining our ragtag group of humans, but the movie simply uses its appearance as a throwaway gag. Towards the third act of the film, Royce and his surviving companions meet a character that was originally intended to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. The character, Noland, is played by Lawrence Fishburne. He has been marooned on this Predator game preserve for decades and has taken up Predator technology as a means of survival, but he is slowly losing his mind due to lack of human connection. This would have been a great idea if it were either Arnold Schwarzenegger or Danny Glover in Fishburne's place, but the way it's executed in the final film is not particularly successful. Ultimately, the final showdown of the film isn't very successful either. It is just a beat-for-beat repeat of the ending of the first Predator film. The ideas housed within Predator are fairly solid, but the execution and structure of the film is just too derivative to be a fresh entry into the franchise. The whole film ends up being a bit worn down and repetitive. If the idea of a Predator game preserve had been taken in a slightly different direction than the original film, and closer to Rodriguez's idea, this could have been a franchise jumpstarter that everyone wanted it to be, but sadly, it just never quite clicked. Overall, the film feels like it's holding back, as if it had really great ideas for subsequent sequels, and this installment was just the setup for those. The finished product fell prey to planning a franchise before producers were sure there would be enough interest to sustain one. With these big-budget genre outings, the filmmakers aren't guaranteed sequels, but the studio wants to preserve all the juiciest ideas for the inevitable world-building that happens when orchestrating the creation of a multi-film franchise. This tension can lead to certain entries in the series feeling like they're just treading water, which is exactly what this one does. In the end, the film scored a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made $127 million off a $40 million budget. While it was ultimately a financial gain, the lack of enthusiastic response and the comparatively minimal profit margins caused Fox to rethink the direction of the franchise. They did not want to produce sequels with Rodriguez's Troublemaker Studios, or the other creatives involved in this outing. This is on one level highly understandable, and on another, really frustrating. If the studio had backed Rodriguez's original vision of a more epic Predator film, it could have solved many of the issues that the fanbase had with the finished film. The lack of support for his vision is ultimately what went wrong with the project. Predators should have been a return to form for the franchise. It should have been a grand debut of a new trilogy of films chronicling the adventures of intergalactic space hunters who are obsessed with tracking down humans and proving their superiority. But it just wasn't meant to be for a myriad of reasons, including lack of studio support for a broader vision, lack of prep time for the actors to gain the appropriate amount of weight for the roles, and a final version of the film that just screams, "We'll put all our really cool ideas into the next one." Predators should have been the springboard for the rest of the Predator world, but it just wasn't. So, what do you think? Was Predators a worthy entry into the franchise? Should they have put Danny Glover in Lawrence Fishburne's place? Will you be showing up to the theaters the next time a Predator film is launched? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe for more videos from The Graveyard Shift.